Verse 21. But he is appointed, read this thing carefully, but he, there should be a parenthesis in there to make it clear for us, but he with an oath through the one who said to him, the Lord has sworn and will not change his mind, you are a priest forever. Now he's referencing Psalm 110:4 again, but this is the fourth time in this letter that he's done this. The fourth time. I guess if you say something 4 times, maybe you're serious. I want you to pay attention to this. He says it over and over and over and over because they have to get this. If they don't get this, then the issue is they are going to wander off into the bushes and go back to the Judaistic religion that they had, which has no ability to save them from their sins or transform their lives. The seriousness of what God is saying here is unmistakable. He's not kidding. Sometimes I think we think God is kidding, that he doesn't really mean what he says. He is deadly serious here. So when we start with verse 21, but he, tricky question, who is that? Okay. But Jesus specifically. Yes, he's God. But he, Jesus, is appointed a priest. I'm going to insert that so this reads a little more smoothly. Okay. But he is appointed a priest with an oath through the one who said, there's God the Father. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever. And he's in Psalm 110, he's referring to the Son. Only Jesus had an oath. Aaron and the Levites were temporary. And so Paul has to convince them that Jesus is better. In fact, the only priest for the Hebrews, or the Hebrews will continue down this road into Judaism, which unfortunately in history they actually did. Now, what on earth does that have to do with us? Because we are doing the same thing. In our society, we have done the best we could to pull God off the top and insert whatever else we want in its place. Have you noticed that when this whole thing of separation of church and state came up, and I'm not trying to argue that out today, we'll never get out of here. And it's too nice a day. But when we started saying, oh no, government should have no contact whatsoever, and that was not the founders' intention. Government should have no contact with the state. What they were doing was showing God to the door. Even though guys like John Adams said that our Constitution is only set up for a religious, meaning a Christian people. Because there has to be a morality in the heart of the people to understand that the reason we have a republic is so that we are more concerned with the welfare of our neighbor, not just what I get out of it. But when that was dismissed, look at our society now. It's all about, I have my rights. You can't even offend me. Your free speech stops at my offense. You don't get to say what you want to say. See where we're going with this? Have you seen what they're doing in our schools to our children? In over 1,000 school districts in this country, over 1,000, it's like almost 1,100 school districts. If your child is confused about their gender, they don't have to tell the parents. They can transition and never tell the parents. Who stripped the parents of their rights to know what's going on with their children? We can't tell right from wrong. We can't tell what a woman is. Think of all the decades we were trying to protect women's rights and get and equalize the pile a little bit. We don't even know what a woman is anymore. You see where this is going? When you strip God away, everything else falls apart because we will find something to put in God's place. And what's been put in its place now is the state. You know what else we put in there? Our pleasures, our greed, our selfishness, our right to be angry. We choose that it's easier to not forgive and live with bitterness and that hidden kind of rage way down deep inside someone. One of the most difficult things that people deal with, I'm a therapist. One of the things that people deal with is their inability to forgive. And often enough, it traps them inside a trauma because they can't deal with the horrible thing that somebody did to them. And I don't have time to preach on forgiveness this morning, but really forgiveness is not between you and the offender. Forgiveness is between you and the pain. You have to let yourself free from the pain. And I know some of the stories sitting in this room, and there are people who have been deeply, deeply hurt by sometimes even well-meaning people, but certainly by people who were less than well-meaning. Can we put it? Is that a gentle way to put it? And every time we close our eyes, we see their face. Sometimes we substitute a clear relationship with God, a gracious relationship with God where He can minister to us because we are so busy with what we think is going to comfort us. I've said this before, but every time we sin is actually an act of faith in something outside of God. I'm not going to trust God for this. I'm going to do something that I think is more expedient for me. It'll work better. So I'm swapping out the things that God has said He will care for, He will attend to, and He will bring His glory through you into the world. I'm swapping that out for something that I think is important to me because I can't trust Him with this. It really comes down to that, doesn't it? I can't trust Him with this, so I have to take care of this myself in my own way. And now I'm in rebellion. Oh, but God knows my heart. He knows I meant well. Yes, God knows your heart. He also knows that you don't know what you're talking about. So secular society puts self and government in the place of God to give life. So like the Hebrews, we have drifted away from God. Just one thought on this. I kind of missed this illustration, but I wanted to include this. I was watching this lady on MSNBC. I'm still a believer. It's okay, right? Anyway, she was making a distinction between Christians and Christian nationalists. Did you see that one? And she says, there's a difference between Christians and Christian nationalists. Really? Help me understand that. She says Christian nationalists believe that the way that people should be treated, I'm saying that not her, but human rights, she says. She starts talking about civil rights. She says the rights of the individual do not come from any government or any institution or any ruler or leader. The Christian nationalists believe that all of our rights come from God. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. So, I'm sorry, lady. Somebody beat you to that one. But somehow she's trying to make the point that rights do not come from God, but they come from the state. Well, then there's nothing higher. That's a scary proposition. The problem with civil rights versus human rights is that civil rights will change with any administration. If there's a government granting us some kind of freedom or rights, even rights to exist or take a breath, to believe what we believe, to say what we say, to assemble with whom we choose to assemble, all of that stuff, if the state has inserted itself as the one who says what we can and cannot do in that area, then we will never rise above the moral quality of that group. Have you seen what the FBI is up to? Have you seen what the Department of Justice is up to? Do we really want to set our standard by Fonnie Willis? This is going to get us off YouTube, I know. So, bring it on.